Simple math and planning can save you from applying pesticides, herbicides, and fertilizers. Growing food isn't complicated. You don't need to poison your own food. Stay clean. Resist the temptation.
Yeah, I want to talk about a change in gardening attitude, especially in gardens where people are trying to grow their own food. So we have this scenario where 75% of American households are using pesticides, herbicides, fertilizers, and everything else you can imagine to keep their gardens in check. Now, what happens is our soils and our gardens get dependent on these chemicals. What I mean by that is once you start to use them, the only way you can keep your garden healthy and looking good and moving forward is with these chemicals. Unless you start a drastic change, and that change is what I want to talk about. So here in this garden, we grow way more food than we could ever eat or consume. And the idea is that we base our garden on being healthy. Great soil underneath. Soil that's full of microorganisms, fungi, and everything you need to have your soil alive and doing well. We grow lots of cover crops. We use lots of organic compost, which manure and things like that to not have to use these harsh fertilizers. The next thing we strive for is we want our garden to be healthy. We want everything to be watered, not overwatered, not underwatered, just the perfect, watering. Then we want our garden to be incredibly healthy. How do you do that? You have the fundamentals right. You have so much biodiversity in your garden that there's so many things that these pests can eat, and that pressure that's applied to your garden is spread out through the entire biodiversity, so that not one plant or one area of your garden is completely destroyed by these insects. For example, I'll have tomato plants here, tomato plants in that cove over there, tomato plants down there, and another set of tomato plants further down. So my tomato plants are spread out. This gets attacked, that doesn't get attacked, this gets semi-attacked, and the one down below doesn't get attacked. So by doing that, I'm guaranteed to have, a good crop of tomatoes because I'm so geographically spread out in the garden. Getting back to the problem with chemicals is that they're the lazy man's solution. They actually make gardening a lot easier. They don't force you to use a pitchfork to weed your garden. Anyways, a lot of these gardeners want the easy way out, and it's the worst scenario because everything you're putting on your land, every chemical, every fertilizer ends up in the river. We have a river right here. If I fertilize all this, the next heavy rain, most of it's in the river. So that these chemical compounds end up inside us. If we eat vegetables that have been sprayed, that way if we drink city water, if we drink our own water, whatever it may be, well water, we are going to have these chemicals show up everywhere. So you have a family, let's say of 4 people, and the parents are getting into gardening and they're producing all this food, but they spray everything. They spray their fruit trees, they spray their vegetables, they fertilize everything to get a better crop. They want this, they're aiming for this beautiful looking food, the same they can buy in the grocery store. And it makes absolutely no sense. Let's say I'm going to lose 30% of my crop to, let's say it's coal. I'm losing 30% of my crop to animals and bugs eating that crop. So what if I just planted 30% more or 40% more? Now all of a sudden I'm going to get the same amount of crop, which in October you can't even deal with all this food that you grow in colder climates. So what I'm getting at is think differently about gardening. Think differently about what you want to achieve. Think differently about the end result you get on October 15th. Think about all those things. You have more food than you ever need if you have a good garden. There's no way around it. If you have a decent vegetable garden, it will produce at that time and period of the year too much food for you, unless you're not gardening well. If you have apples that have little holes in them from insects, take a knife, pare it out. You don't need to use chemicals. There's no way around it. If you want to get rid of dandelions on your golf course green grass, who cares? They will look after themselves. Dandelions are the most self-maintaining plants you could ever imagine. If they show up in your lawn, it's because your lawn has an issue. All these things, knowledge, educate yourself on gardening, understand plant diversity, understand attracting insects to your garden, understand the benefits of a living garden where everything is alive and everything is working. If you can do all that, you will never need pesticides. When we have these pesticide numbers where the American population is using 1 billion pounds of pesticides on land and whatever, and that's unsustainable, because you got to remember, everything that we're putting on the ground is diluted with water, and that dilution will allow it to get into everything that is in our biosphere. So if you can organically garden by using knowledge, by using biodiversity, by using the attraction of other life forms, by having incredibly healthy soil, then you're doing a huge job to society. And to make matters more interesting, if you can spread that word and tell people, you catch somebody spraying, yell at them, tell them to stop doing this nonsense, and explain it to them. Explain to them that they can do it in many different ways. So stop even considering using pesticides, herbicides, and chemically produced fertilizers. Stick to the organic way, and you will get a lot healthier. Your family will get a lot healthier, and your gardening will be a lot more enjoyable, because you are including yourself in nature, and this inclusion makes everything interesting. When you have butterflies and flies and insects and reptiles hiding in your garden, it makes everything worthwhile.